I'll be reviewing the book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So, this is the Hunger Games prequel, and I read this book at the start of the year. And honestly, it's such a good book. It's a good, fat book, and I enjoyed every page of the book. And the movie for the same's coming out in about November, and I don't know about everyone else, but I'm super excited to go and see the movie in the theaters. So basically, this book is set at the time of the 10th Hunger Games. The original series, Katniss's Hunger Games, are the 74th Hunger Games. So about 64 years have passed in between the main series and this. So one thing about this book, the prequel, is it shows the evolution of the games from the 10th Hunger Games to the 74th Hunger Games. So although it is quite a barbaric activity, the Hunger Games in itself, it really shows how the games have evolved in terms of housing the tributes. As in initially in the 74th games, Katniss's games, the tributes before the games are given luxury. They are transported in luxurious trains. They live in penthouses, for crying out loud. And they eat good food. They're well clothed, and they have tribute interviews where they're glamorized as much as possible. And the 10th Hunger Games, the tributes are basically treated like vermin. They are transported in these bulky vehicles. They stay in zoos. They're kept at zoos and they're treated like animals. People come to watch them like animals. And so all of this, in the broader aspect, it reflects on how the games have evolved. And for the viewers who are watching the games, it really shows the how the capital works, and how they evolve the game just so that the audience would watch it and they'd be able to maintain these games that they've started. Now, the second thing I liked about the book was the protagonist, Coriolanus Snow. President Snow, the antagonist of the main series, who's caused the death of so many people, he's the protagonist of this book. I was when I started reading the book, I was expecting some evil mastermind who's talking about how he's gonna be evil and rule the world, but I was completely surprised because Coriolanus Snow was like any normal protagonist you would read in any random book. So, like, the what are the qualities of a protagonist? A protagonist is someone who's brave, someone who's selfless, and works for the greater good. And that's not exactly what Coriolanus is, but he still works towards providing for his families. And you think that in the main series, you think Coriolanus is someone who grew up in riches. He had everything, all the facilities of the capital at his disposal. But actually, in the first page of the book, you see that he grew up in a poor family. As in, the Snow family was earlier, it had lots of grandeur. They lived in a penthouse. But now, after the Great War, which caused the Hunger Games, his family was also rendered poor. And he's had to build himself up from the start, and he's struggled a lot. So that is one aspect that makes at least me as a reader really relate to Coriolanus. And I felt achieving that as an author was like, I hats off to Suzanne Collins. But obviously there were some parts in the series which reminded me that Coriolanus was eventually going to become the president who was going to cause the death of so many people. But Suzanne Collins' writing was scary good, the way it connected, Coriolanus in the past and then Coriolanus in the future. And then the last aspect of the book, which I liked a lot, was how it brought certain elements from the main series, which we weren't given, an insight into earlier. Now it talks about that in this series, as in the song "The Hanging Tree." As in, it's a very important part of the main series. It's an important symbol of the rebellion. But in this book, we're actually given an insight into how it evolved, why it was written, who wrote it, and honestly, that for me was the cherry on top of this amazing book. And I'd recommend it to all those who haven't read it. Go read it right now.